Hey, welcome to another episode of the Onward and Upward podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Ben, once more, and our special guest, Jonathan Barnhart. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you got it. Glad to be here, guys.
Yeah. So, episode 4. It feels good to be kind of past that 3-episode hump, and we're looking forward to doing more and more. I know you and I have talked about trying to do this on a more weekly basis, so don't want to put ourselves in a box too hard, but we do hope
summertime,
to be...
you just schedule as you can.
Exactly.
But, I've been super enjoyed the first 3, and looking forward to this one with Jonathan for sure.
Yeah.
And, I think it's, a great start to another season, and definitely, just think of all the different guests we have kind of on our mind, and people that are confirmed already, we maybe won't share that.
Yeah, we'll keep that secret for now, but we do have some great guests lined up to continue this forward. So as way of reminder, our podcast, the heart for it, right, is moving onward in our walk in this world and also moving upward in our faith with Christ. And so that's who we are. That's what we hope to do with every single episode, is to continually encourage each other and those listening like you to move onward in their daily walk and to grow in their relationship, moving upward in their relationship with Christ. So onwards and upwards. It's a phrase that I said a bunch that I came to Paul going, man, I want to rebrand our podcast. It's a new season. I want to take it a little different direction. He goes, well, why don't you call it Onward and Upward? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you say it all the time. Why don't I just call it that? I'm like, it's not a bad idea. So I went and talked with Ben, like, hey, you want to be my co-host? We're going to do this thing. And Onwards and Upwards is where it came from, and what a great... I use that as a tagline because it's a great tagline for me to encourage me.
I think you used that phrase during your interview with us.
Did I really?
I think you did.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
It's just one of those little phrases that I don't know where I picked it up. It's kind of fitting too. I come and now I'm a Sydney Eagle, and that's part of the Sydney Eagle fight song is to move onwards and upwards. Mm-hmm. So, just a great reminder for myself. So, could we start with the scripture too? Jonathan, you've got that, I think.
Yeah, Philippians 3:12-16 says, "Not that I have already obtained all this or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ Jesus took hold of me. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." All of us then who are mature should take such a view of things, and if on some point you think differently, that too God will make clear to you. Only let us live up to what we have already attained.
Yeah, I still love Paul's boss moment there of, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, take it up with the Lord, because it's the Lord's words. Yeah. And I pray that he makes the truth that is the truth that you don't agree with,
you'll come around
plain to you. Right. Yeah. Like the truth isn't changing. I pray that your mind changes and conforms to God's truth. You know?
Well, he also says in verse 13, if you look at someone, the Apostle Paul, who many would maybe put on a pedestal, like, hey, here's a model believer. He says, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. Yeah. Right? He was telling people, like, hey, I don't have all of it yet either.
Right. I'm still wrestling.
If I'm still wrestling with this, if I'm still striving to go onward, upward, right? Definitely. You need to be doing the same thing.
Definitely.
Right?
100%. 100%.
No, good word there.
Yeah. Well, and that's how we always want to start with, just who we are, right? Yep. It's important to remember who we are. So, and as always, we like to spend some time with some jokes. And Ben, today you've got our first one.
Yeah. So
in the form of Would You Rather.
Would you rather? And it is going to be a reoccurring theme in this section.
We have some
because we do like these things. So.
Yeah. Would you rather? We've done bad dad jokes already. Yeah. We have a new segment that we were just talking about prior to rolling camera. Yeah. That again, we'll keep that secret. But we got a new segment during the joke time that'll come up probably in the next episode or so, and excited about that. But go ahead, Ben.
Well, so I'm going to start with an easy one, but I am curious between you two guys. Would you rather cuddle a koala or pal around with a panda?
Oh man, I'm going to say pal around with a panda. I don't know. I don't find koalas particularly cute.
What's the difference between koalas and pandas?
Oh, size.
Well, right.
One only eats eucalyptus. The other eats bamboo.
Yeah, pandas eat bamboo, right?
Yeah,
I've watched a panda eat bamboo. I don't want to get in a fight with a panda.
Well, this way you could put a saddle on the panda and ride the panda. I don't think you could do that with a koala.
Yeah.
Koalas are kind of smaller, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They're like a dog size,
right?
Or maybe a little bigger.
And they kind of look like those. You see the bobbleheads of Einstein? They kind of look like a mini Einstein.
Oh, really?
I don't know what the ears and
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
I
looking,
don't know. They are cool looking. But
so what was the question again?
So would you rather basically hang out with a koala, cuddle a koala, or pal around with a panda?
A panda. Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just be more afraid of a panda, but I don't know, live on the edge, I guess.
Yeah, and pandas really aren't that scary.
Have you ever seen? It sounds so simple. Have you ever seen a panda eat bamboo? Like, you ever seen those videos?
Wild.
It's such a simple thing. Like, ooh, they're eating.
Strip it out,
but the way they pull the bark off the outside and then are able to eat it, like the way they're able to pull everything off to get down to the actual raw bamboo underneath to eat it is pretty cool. I don't know.
And it supports that really fairly good sized animal. So
all right, I got one. Would you rather? I changed it slightly because I think this one's better. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future, or 150 years into the past? So unless you've lived 150 years, you didn't see 150 years. Now we have history, but it's not just your view. You get to see all of history 150 years ago. Would you rather see 10 minutes into the future and see all that the future is, right? I'm not talking about just you. I'm talking about
what's
everything.
Going on, right? Anything big.
Or would you like to have seen the last 150 years of history?
Can you change that? Can you use what you see in the future to change what you're going to do? Or is that you just get to see it?
Nope. Yep. You just get to see it. You don't get to travel there. You don't get to travel 10 minutes forward or 150 years back.
I mean, obviously, if you have it, somebody's going to come in and,
right.
I'm like, if it was just strictly on viewing, I'd say as a history teacher, I'd love to be able to go back and see 150 years. There's so many things that have happened. Yeah. And obviously, history books, classes, you highlight certain specific things, but to be able to go back and see all the perspectives, right? So often it's like, it's like the one person who sees an event happen and they tell you, well, I saw this. Well, someone standing on the other end of the street saw something completely different than you did, right? So I think I would love to go back. I tell my kids all the time in class, I'd love to just be in a hot air balloon, like over the beaches in Normandy, what really happened.
Right.
What happened at Custer's last stand, right? Actually, so that's where I'd go.
Yeah, I'm totally there with history. Because here's my thing. I think you
guys are such wise individuals.
But you can learn so much more from history than what might be happening.
You guys
in 10
are
minutes.
such dads. Yeah. I want to go 10 minutes into the future because I want to do the Back to the Future thing, get the almanac, right?
Yeah.
And
okay.
Well, I could do but to see 10 minutes into the future and be like, that team won.
I will say this. If
you could pull it back to the future.
If you changed it to let's say a year in the future, that would be a different.
Yeah.
That's a different level of. Well, now I got to think about it because
10 minutes isn't enough.
It's not enough. No, a year out.
Depending on the situation, though. Depending on the situation, though.
Yeah. Especially if you're in like you said, in a game or anything that's where you have a fairly
short window. Yeah, you're right. Maybe 10 minutes isn't very long.
But it's still good. I mean, it's a good comparison.
I think I'd rather go 10 minutes in the future. No. Other people have recorded the past for me. I want to see what no one else has seen except for God,
There you go. Well, I feel like mine's a little more trivial than your guys's, but would you rather be the absolute best at something that no one takes seriously or be average at something well respected?
Well, average, you won't be known for it. I'd rather be the best at something people don't care about because I will be known for that. Okay. Right? Like, who can eat the most pudding cups in 10 minutes or some nonsense like that, right? Like, that'd still show up in a Google search.
Right.
The top 10 average people at basketball, that's not going to show up.
I feel like this is kind of like they're asking almost like the Dude Perfect absurd recurs, like who can walk the longest, farthest on Legos and bare feet. I mean, do people search that? Yeah, not me either.
That's all they can get.
But I mean,
I think I'd still rather be the best at something stupid than average at.
I think if you could monetize it.
Well, right. That's what I think. Yeah, it's like, well, let's be honest.
Jello, like you can slurp Jello.
There are dozens of things that we all can be average at without any talent.
Yeah.
I guess that's where my mind goes.
But I would say this. So let's say it's something like public speaking or something like that, where you can
something a little more dignified.
Well, something that's like you said, something that has inherent respect towards that activity, and you can. And I would say average in that category is probably enough that you're going to stand out from the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
Depending on how you define average. But
right.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with you, Harry, though. It would be fun to do something just totally.
Yeah. Like
be the best at something.
My name
stupid.
will show up at this, and no one else can beat me at it. I am the best at it. Even if people don't care about it.
But there'll be that one person that you're walking down the street, you're like, hey, you're that
guy. Exactly. It'll still show up as like, who can tie 20 knots the fastest. Like no one cares until they care. Right. And they're like, oh, wow, that could be really difficult to do. Yeah. And you have your 10 minutes of fame. And like Ben said, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you could figure something out.
Yeah. Well, Vegas is calling.
All right. Here's another one. Would you rather be forced to sing along or dance along to every single song you hear? So it's not it's not a choice of doing nothing or doing something. You have to do something. Every time a song comes on, you either have to sing along or dance along every single time.
So this is my problem. I'm not good at either one.
Yeah, I'm with Ben there.
Perfect. But that's exactly why I picked this one.
So
for me, it's singing, right? I'll sing all day long. That's not a problem.
And I enjoy singing, so I would probably choose singing. Now, I will be honest with you. It would probably benefit me more to dance.
You enjoy dance?
Yeah. But it may not benefit anybody else that's around watching.
Like, I want to see Who Let the Dogs come out.
Oh, boy.
Who Let the Dogs Out, and then Ben have to dance to that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm with Ben. I would choose singing, but I actually took a dance class at MSU when I was, in college.
Like classical, like
ballet? No, not ballet.
Oh, okay.
No, we waltzed, tango, and that was a really, really fun class.
I want to see Jonathan Barnhart tango.
I could teach you to waltz. I can't remember how to do tango or. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But I would choose singing for this reason. If I'm singing along to every song, I can't hear the people booing like they would if I was dancing.
True. And
right?
you can pick how loud you sing.
Right?
You can sing soft and be okay. When you dance, there is no soft dancing you can really do.
The only way I would say I think where Ben and I'd be safe with the dancing is, have you seen kids' dance moves lately?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're awful. They're not dancing. It's like you're just flapping your arms around or... It's not dancing.
TikTok dancing. Yeah, TikTok. Sure it is, Jonathan. Come on. It's dancing. It's just different.
Just follow to your chair, Ben. That will be the next big dance on TikTok.
It's true.
So it's funny, but you mentioned that class. So I went to Montana State as well. And so had a couple of friends that must have went to that class.
You're both Bobcats, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Still root for the Grizz, though.
Do you really?
I got my reasons.
Yeah. Well,
man, we'll get into that. We're gonna get a chance to talk more about who Jonathan Barnhart is. Well, I think we'll get to that.
What's funny is I'm the one wearing the Grizz color, so whatever.
Traitor.
Traitor. Anyways, had a couple of friends and they had come out and I don't know, we were just dinking around and some song was on and the two got up and started. It was a tango. I think they were doing a tango. I was like, dang, it was fun to watch and they were really good at it.
Yeah.
And, it takes skill. So, one of those classes, maybe I should have taken that instead of billiards, but, I kind of enjoyed it.
You took billiards in college?
I didn't get to take that one. I didn't know
about
all those.
I got to get on I went to Crown, and we didn't take billiards.
Oh.
I want to take
one
billiards
of those, well-rounded education and whatever.
Oh, I don't care.
I'll tell you, the one I would go back to take
that.
Fencing.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I had known about that. I would have taken fencing.
Yeah,
fencing was a class?
Yeah. They had all these one credit ones, like you could do
it's
bowling or
they
billiards.
have ultimate frisbee?
No, ultimate frisbee wasn't as big of a deal then.
I think it's bigger there now.
Oh, it's huge now. There's high schools that have teams now.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, what do you call it? Intramurals? We had intramural.
Right.
Ultimate frisbee.
All right, sorry for the tangent. But.
No, Jonathan, give us one.
All right. This is a good one for all of us. Would you rather have a mullet for a year or be bald? No wigs. Be bald for 6 months.
Yeah, bald. I've already done it. I can rock a bald head.
I can
rock a bald head. So
I feel like I would choose to do the mullet.
I think you'd look better with a mullet.
Just to annoy the heck out of my kids and my wife.
A mullet would probably annoy my wife. That's for sure. I think I'd rock the bald head just fine because I used to. So.
And then I'd wrap it up with a rat tail, for a while.
Oh, there you go.
So.
Oh my goodness. That's cringeworthy there. I'm sorry, Ben.
Absolutely.
Well, what would Jonathan do?
Well, I don't know that I could grow the mullet, but I had a friend in college that decided to shave his head, and I helped him. And we were going to school in Southern California, and when his head was completely shaved, I agree with him. He looked like a cancer patient. So he wore a beanie, a stocking cap. Like, it's 85, 90 degrees outside. He wore it until his hair grew back.
No way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was bad. It looked I felt really bad for him. It's what he wanted to do. I have the feeling that bald head
So he
would probably...
bicked it. He took it right down to the skin.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My wife would hate either.
Some people can't pull it off, Facial features.
Not everyone's Michael
like
Jordan,
Yep.
So
I used to have a teacher. His name's Flom was his last name, Mr. Flom. And he used to have a mug on his desk called Bald. It said "Bald is beautiful" on it all the time because he was completely bald. He could grow some hair on the sides, right? But that was it. So he shaved everything all the time.
I think I would.
He always had that mug. Bald is beautiful.
I mean, if you lost it all on top and it's just on the side, you might as well take it all off. I mean, I don't understand.
I almost feel like that'd be the perfect time to grow the mullet because you don't even have to maintain the top. You don't even have to keep the top short. It's short. It's non-existent. It's the ultimate mullet, isn't it? I'm just kidding.
Man.
Oh goodness! Please don't.
All right, so here's the next one. We're gonna keep going. Would you rather have a pause or a rewind button in your life? So you can use it. Like, it's just one of the things.
That's a good one.
Pause or rewind.
I
can tell you when I was younger, I would have definitely done rewind because I was easily...
Yeah, I guess if you're really successful at life, you'd rather pause so that you can take in the moments.
Yep.
If you suck at life, then you definitely want
the
rewind button.
Spencer's dying. You said that.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like I say enough dumb stuff. I'd rather have the rewind button than the pause button.
Yeah.
I'd put it this way. I'd ask my wife to get the pause button. And I'll get the rewind button. And then together we'll be good to go.
That's right.
Can we do that?
I'd go with the rewind button as well. I think with the pause, even if there is a lot of great stuff that goes on, there tends to still be those great moments later on. If you've already had some great moments, and you set yourself up for success, made good choices, generally that continues to play out.
Totally.
So, but I'm definitely with Harry. I've done and said plenty of dumb stuff. I'd rather have the rewind button and go back and I'm like,
let's
don't
tweak this.
say that, or hey, that person is listening. So
avoid some conversations, perhaps.
Right.
Would you rather? This is a little more sad one. I don't know why I chose it, but I did. Would you rather lose your sight forever or all your memories?
Ooh.
Right? I read this and was like,
well,
would you rather lose your sight or all your memories? Right? Isn't that kind of a depressing question?
That is a depressing one. But I'm gonna go. I always tell my kids when they're taking tests or anything, go with your gut instinct. My gut instinct is to say lose sight because if I get a night to go to the bathroom, whatever, I got to walk in the dark anyway. So I feel like that you can make the adjustment. I mean, I'm not making light of people who are blind, obviously, but I also know from having a grandmother who had Alzheimer's that when the memory goes and they ask you stuff over and over, I mean, that's really hard to watch too. So I think the memories you have. Right, even if you can't see anything else, you still have those, and you can still see those in your mind. So I think I'd rather lose my sight.
Right, that's where I'm at. It's a hard choice either way. Like you said, like losing your sight is no small thing.
Right,
that's a big deal that affects
literally
every part of your life.
Yeah, all the different things that I enjoy do right now that are no longer an option.
Right. Yeah, you can never go fishing or hunting or.
How
running.
important is, all the memories that I have, not only growing up, but with my kids, all that stuff. So there's a lot of things that it's amazing what blind people can do, though. I mean,
Yep. Here's the unpopular one. So just because you've lost all your memories doesn't mean you can't make new memories.
That's right.
That's true.
So here's the other side that I thought of is if I was going to argue for losing your memories and keeping your sight is you still have your sight, right? And now you can make all new memories.
Yep.
And truth be told, we don't all have great memories. We also have bad memories. And so those also get kicked to the can on top of it all. Yep. Have you ever seen the movie Regarding Henry? It's with Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford's this lawyer, and he goes to a gas station. He's a mean dude, right? Mean. His kid knocks over orange juice and he flips out or something like that. Just he's a mean guy. Not started out really good and just being in the corporate life and whatever. He gets shot in the head and lives, but it hits the long-term memory area of his brain, and he loses. He doesn't know who he is, who anyone is, who his kid is. He doesn't even understand his job or anything. It turns out he was having an affair. You find that out later in the movie, right? It's called Regarding Henry because his name's Henry, and prior to the injury, he was a horrible person, and after the injury, he had this like blank slate to do things completely different, and becomes this amazing husband and this amazing father who's really awesome and this really genuinely nice guy, right? That ends up leaving his job because he sees how bad and negative it is. Pretty crazy. So that's where my mind goes is Regarding Henry. Like,
well, and I was there as well. I mean,
maybe I'd rather lose my memories, and because I can always make the new ones. Right. Like those people aren't dead. I can go meet them again. It would be really hard, be really tough, right? I think about that movie again, but I get a chance to do it all again, and I still have my sight then on top of it.
Right.
It's a hard one.
All right.
Sorry, I know. Bring us up, man.
On a little more positive note. Well, maybe positive. Maybe a hard decision for some. Would you rather eat only pizza for a year or not eat any pizza for 5 years? I'm glad I'm asking you guys this, and I maybe don't.
Only pizza for how long?
Yep, only pizza for a year, or you can't eat pizza for 5 years.
Okay. Depends on how broadly you define pizza.
Well, I was going to say, and it also depends on how many different kinds of pizza that you like. So my wife, like she likes pepperoni. It's pretty much only pepperoni. Any other pizza, she'll eat it if it puts in front of her, but she doesn't really like any other pizza. For myself, I love dozens of kinds of pizzas, cook dozens of different kinds of ways. So I think I'd rather have pizza for a year than to not have any pizza for 5 years. I'm married to an Italian. That would be really difficult. And I like pizza.
It's one of the great wonders of American culture is the fact that you can have pizza on Friday night and just, it'd be hard to walk away from 5, but I think I would actually do the 5 year. Nope, I'm not going to do it.
Walk away. I mean, that's the healthier choice in the end if you think about it.
Yeah, and cheaper.
But I don't know. There are times where I could eat pizza like 3-4 days in a row.
Yeah.
But do you love pizza? See, that's where
I'm with you. I mean, like, I put a lot of different things on pizzas.
So it can look a lot different.
Oh, absolutely, can look different. The whole 5 year, not eating for 5 years, I feel like it'd be really hard to get back into eating it. Maybe I don't know. I think I would go more for the eat it if it was either or. Eat it for a year and still have my pizza. But that's
I know I could be convinced the other way too.
You just got to work out a lot, right? Because you're carb loading.
You're gonna have to.
Well, the other thing I'm concerned about is that are you going to be so sick of pizza by the time you get done with a year that you're like, nah, I've got my lifetime supply done.
Right.
I'm good. But I'll eat a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't have very many things that I won't eat. So because of that I can go either way. But yeah, it'd be better if, to me, thinking about, man, this is the 67th pizza
for real
this month.
I think you'd be counting down the days after about 10 days.
I know. I almost want to change my answer.
350 days left of this.
Do I love pizza that much that I wouldn't be willing to give it up for 5 years? I probably would be willing to give it up for 5 years. All right, this is the last one. Would you rather give up air conditioning and heating for the rest of your life or give up the internet for the rest of your life?
Poof.
Yeah.
In our culture,
you can't heat.
Climate up here?
You can't heat. I don't know what that means. It means you probably have to move to some temperate climate that doesn't shift temperatures very often, like California. Right? California, it'll sit at like 70-some degrees like all year. Like it won't. A couple months of the year gets crazy hot, depending on where you live. But if you get up into the mid to northern California, I mean, it stays pretty, from what I've heard, been told, it stays fairly consistent. I mean, what's scary, where you're not crazy hot and not crazy cold.
Right. What's scary with that question, though, is how, I mean, I'm just thinking about how dependent or at least active I am on the internet.
Or how much do you want to be dependent
on it? Right.
That's what I think about. It's like, should I want to choose internet over the heating and air conditioning? It's kind of like a choice between two creature comforts that really result in us being spoiled, I think.
Yeah. But I don't know. I was, the mantra is, you always either put clothes on or take clothes off. So I don't know. Like, growing up,
there's ways to deal with it.
There's ways to deal with it.
I'm gonna laugh when Jonathan's wearing like 6 jackets.
Well,
7 layers of snow pants.
One of my last winter semesters MSU. It's like middle to it's semester test time in December, and I went to my final with one of those like furry bomber hats, a sweatshirt, and a pair of basketball shorts. Yeah, and it was cold enough that I ended up like kind of froze my leg and like cracked my leg, and I had blood running on my leg. But it didn't feel cold, so I don't know. But at the same time, the internet is one of those things that, as a kid, like we had dial-up. So if mom needed to use the phone, you weren't getting on the computer. Yeah, I know.
All of us, we can all remember that. I need to pull up a web page. Well, let's start it, and then I'm going to go get a cup of water. Yeah. I might go to the bathroom, have a conversation with somebody, and then come back, and maybe that page will be loaded, depending on what page you're trying to load. Yeah. It was atrocious.
I feel like the decision is the best decision to make is to be without the internet. I think you can.
Isn't that the healthier choice?
And for as much benefit as you can get from it, you can also waste an awful lot of time.
We're about to get to that to our current event. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Plus, I know. I feel like I should say, lose the internet, keep the heating and air conditioning. At the same point, I'm like you said, I could definitely be okay without the heating and air conditioning. I just have to make changes in my life to deal with it. Yeah. And then still have the internet, which I can do a lot with the internet. So, moving on to the current event, I came across this actually before. So, CPYU, Center for Parent and Youth Engagement. They're a great site for any parent to go to. If you've never gone to it, cpyu.org. It's a great site where it keeps you up to date on current events. Like you asked, who's Billie Eilish, right? It'll keep you up to date on those things, like all the things our youth hear and know and see. It's a great site for that they just they have 2 different podcasts as well that are phenomenal. I plug that all the time because it's just it's one of those one-stop shop places to stay current with youth. But something that popped up actually on my TikTok prior to this, and then I was looking through CPYU the other day and was like, hey, it popped up again, so why not bring it up? But get this is the power of social media right now. There's a teenager that was having a birthday, and so he put it up on his TikTok, inviting everyone to Huntington Beach, California, at a specific day, a specific time. To come and let's rage. Let's have a huge birthday party. Just come, bring all your own stuff. Let's just come and hang out. And over 2,500 people showed up. Have you ever had 2,500 people come to your birthday?
No. I would not want that either.
2,500 people showed up. Obviously, when you have that many people coming, very few are coming for the intention of celebrating someone's birthday and rather coming to cause trouble and issues. And so the results from it is more than 150 people were arrested after that crowd shows up, creating a ruckus, Yahoo News says, including hurling fireworks and rocks at the police. My point with this article is not people getting arrested. We can talk about people being dumb all we want. It's just a reality of life. You can waste literally every day, all day, complaining about people making poor decisions. Happens all the time.
That's what we do.
Right. I mean, it's like, a waste of time, right? The reason why I brought this up is more for the side of things. And this is to any parent, if you're not on TikTok, you are missing the single most influential app in our kids' lives. It is literally the most influential place for our kids right now. It's insane. It's more than Snapchat, far more than Instagram or Twitter. Twitter's for like.
And what's crazy is literally
adults. It's for like older people.
2-3 years ago, it was Snapchat.
Oh yeah.
And now it's TikTok. And the question is, 3 years from now,
way back, it used to be Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Twitter. And then it went from that to Instagram.
Right.
And from Instagram to Snapchat. And actually, Snapchat is getting lost in the background. TikTok is really the number one place that most teenagers that have a cell phone. That's one of the first apps. Research is showing that's one of the first apps that teenagers under 18 are downloading onto their phones. Like if they get a new phone, the first app that they make sure is on there is TikTok. They're not all of them are creating videos, but they're consuming at an alarming rate. So for me, I always try to stay up. Right, it used to be called Musical.ly. If you guys didn't know, it's used to be called Musical.ly, and the idea was people with like a musical gifted talent would be posting on there, and they could do lives, they could do short videos and things like that. And then it got changed to TikTok, and it took off. And but 150 arrests among 28 were juveniles there.
That should raise a red flag right there, though, I think, with you, like 28 are juveniles out of the 150. So that means you got 122 not qualified as juveniles who came to, and if I remember the article correctly, it wasn't the kid was like 13 or 14 years old, right? So you have adults.
You have adults coming to a teenager's birthday party.
Right. And to kind of circle back to what you said, if you don't have this, I think the other thing to look at is, parents, are you letting your kids have that? And one of the things that, with our daughter who's, turning 13, we have resisted and will continue to resist doing the whole, smartphone and these apps and whatnot.
I didn't have a phone in high school either.
For that reason, because you can't necessarily control what's being put out there. And I don't know, it raises, you need to have some hard conversations with your kids at times.
Yep.
My wife and I did a marital counseling class back in Richie a couple of times, and one of the things that he talked about was what conversations you're having with your kids. And as someone who played sports, I know you did in high school, and Ben, you did in high school as well. Full well that the stuff that gets said in the locker room,
it's not filtered.
It's not filtered. No. And the thing is that if you as a parent are not having those conversations with kids, then where are they getting their information from? They're getting it from your TikTok. They're getting it from their friends. And the thing is, all it takes for a lie to take hold is for someone to not call it a lie. If you don't say it to your kid and say, "Hey, this is how this goes," right? They're gonna like, "Well, my friend wouldn't lie to me." Right? They know because they heard from so and so, and they're so. Yeah, I mean, something like that shows.
Yeah, and for me, it's not like I don't go to it often, and I don't post or anything like that, but I have it so that I'm on it every so often, and I stay up to date, and it's wild. I'm telling you, more than any other app that I've engaged with since being in youth ministry now for over 10 years. It is the single most powerful app I have seen in youth culture, of how scary the cultural trends take hold and take root and really move through, right? Like for a while back, it was Fortnite dances, right? I mean, TikTok took that over and took what was already a big thing with Fortnite and just blew it up. I mean, just blew it up. It was huge. And then, I mean, so you see I've come across different videos where you have people now taking the last 2 years, all the different TikTok dance trends that have happened. And I'm watching this video going, I've seen all of our youth, not all of them, but a lot of our youth do almost all of these dances at different times. I mean, it is so spot on. I encourage any parent not to sit there and consume it for yourself, right? I'm not a huge TikTok fan of, you get the app and it's going to do wonders for your life. No, not at all. What I'm saying is, as a parent, right, is like, get TikTok, be on it, and know what is on it. Don't consume your life with it. Don't let it be a habit thing, because that's not healthy. But if you want one of the most single influential pieces of any of the youth's lives you're around, I know, Jonathan, you're a teacher. TikTok is it's the place I tell people to go. I will say also on the side of TikTok, having delved deep into the risks of all these different social platforms, Twitter by far is the most raunch and explicit Twitter's a terrible. If you're going to take one app off your kid's cell phone, it should be Twitter. Twitter is an almost unregulated, as far as explicit content, social media app about any. Facebook and Instagram are close to each other. They delete, and TikTok is actually one of the most strict apps right now. That's not a reason for your kids to have it. That's not what I'm saying. But I have noticed more and more TikTok really trying to tighten down their things, which is meaning more and more parents are like, yeah, it's a safe app, no problem, get on it, right? I see it as it's a good thing that they keep trying to tighten things down and keep the raunch and the ugly stuff off of it, but only to an extent, right? But it's actually creating this more parent-friendly atmosphere where it still has a whole bunch of things that are not great for your kids. So,
and I think one
the
of the
power
things,
of it is just unreal to me. That one kid, 13 years old, who I looked up his profile. It's not like he has 2 million followers or something like that on TikTok, right? And he gets 2,500 strangers to come and hang out. The article says 400 people had already started showing up for this thing on Friday. And the party wasn't until Saturday night. And there was already people showing up. I mean, that's the power of this social media app. The following, it's crazy. I scroll through, and so many videos have like 2 million likes, not views, likes, right? Their view counts are like twice as much as that usually, or more. Like 11 million people watched that video. And it's like one after the other. It's like people are legit just scrolling on this thing all day. And kids are all day just scrolling on it. It's going to shape, I think, our culture quite a bit. And we have to be ready for what that means.
And a lot of the content creators on that app, and not only that app, obviously others, a lot of them are referred to as influencers.
Oh, yeah,
right?
influencers,
so
yep. It's spot on. It's a spot on
That's exactly
description.
what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And
they get paid to do it.
It could be a good influence, could be a bad influence. But it's got to be entertaining, otherwise they aren't
totally
looked at. So,
And there is some good. It's not all bad by any means, just as anything else. There is some good there. But there's definitely things I just huge encouragement to anybody. You want to dip your toe, if you will, into the youth culture. Grab TikTok. It's a surprisingly accurate depiction of what a lot of our teens think and deal with, both on the positive side of things and the negative.
So one of the things that I've been struck with, partly because, I've got a 14-year-old now, and so I'm starting to try to pay more attention to youth culture and what's going on there a little bit. But the speed at which these platforms change, the speed at which what was hot is now like, oh, that's just sold last week.
Trends are changing even faster.
It's like super fast. When I was growing up, there was trends and there was things, and I was mostly oblivious to it. Yeah. But, it just didn't seem to have the same turnover rate that the culture does now. I don't know if that's because of the internet. I'm sure a lot of it is. It used to be in Montana, we were at least 5 to 10 years behind, going culture in California and the East Coast. Maybe 20, depending on fashion. But I mean, it's a different deal now.
Totally.
And I think I appreciate anybody that can give us parents a heads up as to, hey, this is going to be a good source of at least a way to view what's going on with your youth.
Yeah. And so one of the fun things I do is I test some of these things, right? So being a coach, basketball coach and stuff, I'm around teenagers, being a youth pastor around teenagers. And so I'll use some of these like hot button phrases and stuff like that I see popping up. Like, so right now the popular thing is sheesh, right? Sounds dumb. Well, it's because it came from something kind of nonsensical.
Yeah.
But so I'll once in a while, so like at a basketball thing, one of the girls hit a 3, just like girl in her face hit a 3, and I went sheesh, and like 4 of them looked at me like, did you just say sheesh? I'm like, yeah, I did. And they're like, oh, okay. It was like I used it in the exact purpose. Yeah, it was used in the right time for the right thing. But for me, I'm like, do they? Are these things that I'm saying, are they still true? So I use them once in a while. And sheesh, there's nothing bad. It just means you got ice in your veins, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And it actually came from a frog. Really, it came from a frog making sounds that someone put together and then made that sound, and then they got taken over, and now you go like this, sheesh, right?
It's funny you talk about that because it's softball tournament I was at a couple weeks ago. Every time our cleanup hitter hit a home run, That's all they
did.
And I had no clue what
yep,
I'm like.
Go.
It looks like you're like, are you injecting yourself?
No, they're ice in the veins, baby. Yep.
I guess so.
So
he's in his 30s.
Right,
Most
but
guys
how are you
30s.
supposed to get that, right? Sheesh.
Yeah.
Oh, ice in your veins. Yeah, that's obvious.
I guess,
it's not obvious.
No.
Yeah, so so I'll do that sometimes just to be like, hey, is this a trend that's really caught on? And oh man, over and over and over and over, I'll say something or do something or start a little bit one of the TikTok dances. I'll just start it, and all of a sudden 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the kids are all like doing the dance. It's like, yeah, okay, this is more than any other app I've seen with youth. And pretty much when I started in youth ministry, leading youth ministry, it was kind of at the beginning of this. Facebook was big, and Snapchat hadn't been out yet. And so I'm telling you, this is by far what I have seen the most influential social media app to date, and our kids are consuming it at an alarming rate. So, yeah, something to be watching for, not to be afraid of. Right. But like you guys have said already, to have those conversations, I think, Jonathan, you said it too, like you have to have those conversations with your kids and build those boundaries. It doesn't matter as a parent, what choice you allow your kids to make as far as having a phone, no phone, limits on that phone. You can put apps on their phones to control or turn it off or whatever. No matter what that decision is, I think the critical thing is what you guys already said. Have those conversations of why and what and where. So if we talk about boundaries, why even have a boundary there, and then discuss in full length what the boundary is, yeah, it's huge. But 2,500 people show up to one teenager's TikTok about a birthday party.
And the police, the other thing that says that the police were monitoring, they were aware that so I guess that was the other
they
thing
put out a
surprising,
warning
right?
The next morning that came out, and Saturday morning they put out a warning like, we are going to enforce the law, no alcohol, no drugs, you can't overpopulate this area, whatever.
They had other precincts on alert, ready to step in and help. So
anything can go viral. I don't count anything out. Anything can go viral.
I just wonder if all 2,500 people brought the kid a present.
To
make it kind of trivial.
And it could be the wrong present.
Yeah, that's
seeing as how a lot of adults were there.
Right.
Yeah, right up. So we always want to stay current and up to date on what's going on.
Yeah,
that's our current event of the day. And so a lot of people are probably wondering who this guy is sitting between Ben and I.
Yeah.
John, if you would just share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where you live now.
Sure.
All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm close to a native Montanan, but not really, because I was born in Portland, Oregon. Grew up in a really small town, about 150 people.
Do you have ties to that sanctuary?
To Oregon?
No, the sanctuary, Chaz? Was it Chaz? In Seattle?
Oh, no.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did hear about that, but I was born in '84, so I'm quite a ways before all that. Yeah, so lived in Montana most of my life. My dad is a pastor at Grace Bible Church. He's in charge of global outreach. Grew up in a Christian home. Was actually homeschooled, which is kind of ironic now that I'm a public school teacher. So kind of come full circle. Yeah. But both my parents were teachers as well, and I think that's won't stray too far off topic, but the whole idea, people debate over homeschooling and the pros and cons of that. And I know the legislature just passed some laws about participation for homeschool students. We had an AD meeting about that for our district here just a couple days ago. But a lot of homeschool kids actually get a pretty good education. I'm living proof of that. So,
you talk good.
Yeah. Sometimes. So I've been the history teacher out at Ritchie High School for the last 10 years. I'm transitioning to be the PE teacher next year. So this will be 11 years at Ritchie, but I've been involved as far as like coaching and everything since I was 19. So just finished up a 17th season last spring. Yeah, so I'm taking a break this next year. Yeah, just getting to sit back and watch my daughter participate if she chooses to, spend time with the family and whatnot. So yeah, education and kids has kind of been my life, and I still like to get out and compete, play a little city league basketball, softball, travel quite a bit for that.
Lots of softball.
Lots of softball. Yeah, you got to keep moving, right? Old age creeps up on you.
Yeah, you're battling it back,
right? So yeah, that's what I'm married and have a 7th grader going into 8th grade, and
she keeps you hopping.
Yeah, she does. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome to get to know your family as a whole and spending time with you guys. And glad that you can join us today. One of the questions I always like asking our guests when they come on, you operate in a specific sphere, as you said, being active in different activities. You were a coach, a teacher. How do you see your faith? Your faith is in Christ and who he is and his son dying on the cross for us and our sins. How do you see your faith intersect with your work and these activities? Do you see those interwoven, and how?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it starts with holding yourself accountable. I think one of the things, Paul preached a sermon on it, I think it was last year, talking about, every decision you make, could you look at Christ and tell him like, hey, this is how I handle this
could
situation,
you put it before him?
Right? Exactly. Look at him and
not,
and look him in the eye instead of head down like, yeah, I know I screwed that up. I mean, it doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Right. But that's something that's really challenged me the last year and a half is, no matter the situation, you're always going to have those moments where you have to tell someone something they don't want to hear, right? Whether it's a parent or a student. But holding yourself accountable, like, am I making the best possible Christ-like decision? And when you do that, a lot of the other stuff becomes pretty easy. Some of the correlation, it can be difficult when you're trying to hold kids to standards. But
teenagers love being held to.
And I remember, I mean, I'm 36, but I do remember being, when you're in high school and stuff, you don't want to listen to everything that adults say.
Authority isn't your
you think you
subject.
know, right? Especially as guys, we think we know. We don't, but we think we do. But I guess some of the benefit I've seen is I've had students who they've graduated, they've been gone for years, and I'll get a message out of the blue saying, hey, when I was in school, man, we gave you a bad time. We didn't necessarily want to listen, but a lot of the stuff you've said has made a difference in how life is now. Like, I realized, like, you weren't being mean. Like, you're trying to prepare me for what's going on. And so that, you're always going to have pushback, right? Yeah. Especially in small schools. When I student taught, I was at a Class A school. You have 30 kids a class. You're always going to have somebody that's interested in what you're talking about. You always have kids that want to engage. Smaller schools, that differs a little bit. Totally. But when you can see the success outside of school, I think that kind of reinforces that you're on the right path. And I think the other thing too is you have to be open to listening, right? So often we want to set our own path. We've got, it's great to have goals. You want to have a plan of where you want to go, but at the same time, that needs to fall in line with where God wants. Right. And as soon as you're willing to surrender your will for his will, right, man, life gets a lot less hectic, right? It's not always going to be what you want. Yeah. Right? But when you stay in the center of his will, a lot of really positive things can happen. Yeah. So, and I think that's just been the focus for last couple of years is just really like, what? May not be the situation you want, but this is where God wants you. So, okay, if this is where I'm supposed to be, what do you want me to do? Yeah, totally. So,
do you find for people that don't know, you teach at Ritchie, Ritchie Public Schools, and so that's a relatively small school. Right. Just had a graduation, a relatively large graduating class.
Largest graduating class since I've been there.
8? 10. Yeah. And so I had the fortunate pleasure to be at that graduation and get to hear it. Extraordinarily Christ-centered, by the way. And I heard that that's not always the way it is, every single one, but there's usually an element of that. They had a worship song sung during the graduation. Izzy Fatzinger came up, and I can't remember the teacher's name. What was the teacher's name? That did he talked to all the students. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Kyle.
The math,
Kyle Center.
Is that the math teacher?
No, Kyle is our ag teacher. FFA advisor.
Yeah, too. And he asked her what the meaning of life is, and she said, following Christ. And I was like, wow, that was so cool. He put up a question mark on the slide, but it was just so I guess where I'm going is, do you find unique opportunities teaching in that setting, right? So I'm from a school where we graduated. My class was 136 kids. My wife graduated with a class of like 740 kids or something like that. Yeah. So teaching in Ritchie specifically, I'm sure there's pros and cons, but in this question of, do you see your faith intersecting with your work? Do you find unique opportunities teaching in that atmosphere, in that school?
Yeah, to a certain degree. Obviously, when you have smaller class sizes, even 10 kids being our largest class, you get to know kids really, really well. And oftentimes a lot of them end up staying around, or come back for summers from college and whatnot. So you get to interact with them quite a bit. One of the great things, and I experienced this in my student teaching at the larger school too, just tell kids the truth, right? I mean, when I teach world history and we go over ancient Rome, right, part of that within that district-approved textbook is it talks about the rise of Christianity. And so I go through the resurrection, well, I shouldn't say story because it's a historical fact, but, some people will debate that. And I asked the kids point blank, so you understand that a Roman seal on that tomb meant that if you broke that, you're committing treason and you're put to death, right? You got the best guys, best soldiers in the world at that time, bar none, who their rule is you lose the prisoner, you forfeit your life for that. Yeah. So with that historical knowledge that it's factual, you can't debate that. Christ followers, fishermen, nothing against fishermen, right? Tax collector,
they're not soldiers.
They're not soldiers, right? Yeah. These guys took them on, right? And then not only beat, well, and of course then the guys had no marks on them either, right? But then also rolled away this huge stone, broke the seal, knowing that they signed their own death warrant. Yeah. Right. And so you have moments that you can pick and choose, and you can speak truth in, and you can cause kids to think quite a bit. So.
Which in the end, I mean, that's the thing. You don't want them to make your choice. You want them to make their own choice, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I've always thought about that a little bit, just the unique atmosphere that you get to work in. Like I said, I'm sure there's cons to it too. But yeah, unique pros is what I'm hearing you say to work in that atmosphere. Well, thank you for sharing all that. It does lead nicely into the main subject of our episode today. And this is a subject that I've talked to Ben numerous times about. It's come up in different conversations. I think it's one of these often overlooked bedrock principles of just practical life. So Love and Respect is Dr. Emerson and his wife wrote this book and developed a whole class and marriage counseling stuff and their own academy and all this stuff. And it's phenomenal. And it's the idea about loving and respecting each other in marriage, right? But their principles definitely extend beyond the husband-wife relationship, right? It goes beyond that to just relationships in general. And so one of their big fundamental things is the relationship between face-to-face relationships and shoulder-to-shoulder relationships. And Ben, I'm curious, just as we've talked about this, how do you, when you enter into this subject, kind of what comes to your mind?
I will say this, the first time that I really was exposed to that idea was through the Love and Respect deal. So, but that's been probably over 10 years ago now. So it definitely is something that it's like one of those few things in life that once you're aware of that, it really does influence how you relate to people and how you understand what drives people and gives people some, ways to communicate with you in ways that it's not going to go very well. So if I meet somebody that's a guy and I want to, get to know him and maybe it's either a work associate or somebody that's maybe going to be somebody I'm hoping to be a friend with, we're doing things together, shoulder to shoulder, and we're learning life that way. Now, it could be in the context of sports, could be in the context of some kind of work task or something like that. It could be in the context. I love to hunt and fish, so any kind of outdoor activity, those kind of things. Working on something, working on fixing a vehicle or whatever. All of that is activity where your primary focus is on the task,
right? But
your secondary focus is on what you get to learn and share with guys. And I will be honest with you, there's things that guys will not share in a face-to-face situation. That all of a sudden you spend a half hour with them and all of a sudden they're telling you some of the deepest, darkest, things that is in their life. And I don't know what that is about that, but it's definitely true.
Yep.
And if I tried to court my wife that way, it would not work.
Yeah. The article says, have you noticed that men and women do friendship differently? Typically, and I realize there are always exceptions to the general rule. I'm glad that he always puts that in. If you watch the videos and things, he always puts that little disclaimer in. He calls it a bell curve, right? There's always outliers to the general, right? But generally speaking, female friendship involves face-to-face talking and sharing. Best girlfriends share their hearts, dreams, and frustrations with one another. Although they enjoy doing activities together, it is the close heart-to-heart sharing that binds them together as best friends. Male friendship, however, generally involves activity or watching an activity shoulder to shoulder without much talking other than commentary on the activity, right? Guys hang with other guys that enjoy the same types of activities or hobbies, anything from sports to computers to working on their cars. They are comfortable sitting shoulder to shoulder watching TV without talking. This is the thing that boggles a lot of people is, well, you didn't accomplish anything. No. We accomplished a lot if you're doing it purposely and intentionally. Now, if you're just being lazy doing nothing, that's a whole different story, right? We're talking about, like, if I want to build a relationship with a guy, there's a lot of times I will try to sit with them and do something or go hiking or go fishing or go whatever, right? Like even Jonathan, like play a card game or something, right? Like when I started trying to, be friends with you, it wasn't hard. It was very easy, which helped that you wanted to be friends with me too, right? But I remember it starting with doing something and not just sitting here.
Right.
Share your heart with me.
Right.
It didn't happen that way. And that's okay. And vice versa. Like I think about my mom, she would much rather have a face-to-face conversation. When we go back home, right? She doesn't want to sit and watch a basketball game with me, even if she really liked basketball. She doesn't love basketball. She likes it because we played it and she knows it. She'd much rather sit in a quiet room, like our living room upstairs, and just talk face-to-face, right? Whereas for me, that's good. I see value in that, right? But for sure, I'd rather go fishing. Like my brothers and my dad, we'll go fishing and love it and feel like we came away energized and like relationship tank filled. It is the activity that binds them together as best buds more than the conversation.
Well, and is some of that too going as we do that, right? And like what I've done with a lot of the people that I have met, when I first got to Richie, our superintendent said, hey, they used to do open gym basketball for the old guys. So I started that again. And that was how I met a lot of the guys. And so sometimes I think it's, you don't have the face-to-face conversation, but you're evaluating, right? Are these people compatible with me, right? And not that you're like, okay, I'm going to judge you on a scale of 1 to 10.
No, but naturally can sense like, oh, this could be a friend.
I got a connection with this guy. Like, we're more of an acquaintance, and you're more of like a guy I can hang out with kind of deal because you watch their interactions. You see how they play, or, hey, let's go work out. Are you standing in front of the mirror flexing, or are you actually putting in the work? Yeah. Right? I mean, it makes a difference. I think there's a lot of things that you can do that aren't, they say nonverbal communication that guys can pick up on. Yeah. And you don't have to have that sit down, pour your heart out. Right? That might happen later on down the road. Right? I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Right? If you got someone you're comfortable enough talking about those things. Totally. But usually the other part has to come first. I would say like, hey, we're kind of on the same level of things here. So. Yeah,
and so I'm thinking back to the Love and Respect video, and one of the things he talked about personally is they were painting their house, and all he wanted was his wife to come out and sit in a chair and watch him paint. He loved it. And he didn't say anything. She just chose to come out while he's working and just sit. She didn't help him paint or anything. And from the outside looking in, and he was saying this, if I remember right in the video, from the outside looking in, it looks like nothing's being accomplished. And in the end, actually, a ton was being accomplished because he was getting fulfilled by not being alone, by his counterpart being there with him, and he was being filled. She was being filled, seeing him accomplish something and spending that time with him too. And she saw value, not necessarily because she was getting a ton from it, but she's getting a lot because he was getting a lot. Right? I think about that. Like, so Tesha loves quilting. You guys know that. Mm-hmm. She makes quilts for every single family member. My siblings and her siblings that get married, she makes a quilt for them. It's crazy. So she just finished Tyson and Laura's quilt, and it looks phenomenal. And she like, well, we got to get Spencer's going because Spencer's getting married at the end of August and stuff like that. It's like, she's just a machine, man. She just rocks those things out. And there'll be times where I'll ask, but a lot of times I don't. I'll like go downstairs to play Xbox or watch a show or whatever, or go out in the garage, and she'll just come and sit next to me and just do her quilt. She won't talk to me. She won't ask me questions. She'll just sit there. And I find myself absolutely loving that time, like cherishing that time. Maybe not immediately in the moment, right? Sometimes I'm dense. I don't even realize it's happening, right? Sometimes it's after the fact of, oh, I really enjoyed that, right? It's not always this super intentional time. Like I devised this plan and, but I find like, wow, that this shoulder to shoulder, face to face. And this is the big thing that I'm curious you guys' comments on this, what your experience is. I have 100% seen the two when they're both present, how well they work together. I find myself much more wanting and willing to do a face-to-face conversation when I feel like the shoulder-to-shoulder relationship is healthy, right? And taking that step further, when I watch kids and parents, I see immediately and have a strong hunch as to the health of a face-to-face and shoulder-to-shoulder relationship between a student and their parent, because they have a deep root together. Because each person's one, and if you deny one, the other will suffer as well, right? So if Tesha never spent time with me doing something I enjoyed and not face-to-face talking, I would be less desiring to have the face-to-face conversation, right? That just wouldn't be something, because I would feel like something's lacking already. Instead, I feel this fulfillment. And so it's a natural thing of, I feel connected. And I think maybe that's part of it, is guys need to feel very connected to have those heart-to-heart conversations. When Emerson talks about, face-to-face, he's not talking about, hey, how was the weather today?
Yeah, what's the schedule for this next week?
Right. He's talking like heart to heart, right? Mm-hmm. To have that, I need to feel like there's a connection there. Otherwise, it's just hard to have a heart to heart with somebody that there's no connection there. Shoulder to shoulder. I think of Dave Moore helping me fix brakes on a car, right? It's like, that is shoulder to shoulder time. That's just irreplaceable. That leads to these other conversations that are face to face. Take it the other way around, though. You have great shoulder-to-shoulder relationship, but you put no effort into face-to-face time. And this is where I come back to parents and kids. Huge encouragement to any parent going, most often, right? Parents complain their teenagers come home. You say, how was the day? They're like, fine. What'd you do? Nothing. And how are you doing? Fine. What do you want to eat? I don't know. It's like, you get nothing. I get nothing out of my kids. My first question is, how's your shoulder-to-shoulder relationship? Yeah. Because if it's not there, well, it's of course, they don't want to open up on anything and have a heart-to-heart. They don't feel like you're present. But vice versa, the shoulder-to-shoulder relationship doesn't mean nearly as much if an effort isn't ever put in to have face-to-face. And that's where I think a lot of parents miss it, is they get denied and of course then get discouraged, and understandably so. And because they get discouraged, they stop putting that effort in to have the face-to-face time. And then what happens is then that shoulder time that they have been investing, going to all the games, going to plays, being involved, doesn't have as much stock in the kid's life anymore.
Right.
And the parent is now sitting over even more confused, going, well, they won't talk to me, and now it seems like me showing up doesn't even matter to them. And they like almost play off each other. Yeah.
So the other thing that I think is super important too, because I've got a son and a daughter, and you definitely have to relate to them different.
That's a huge piece.
It's a big piece. And so the other thing is, I think a lot of times we as parents, I'll just say it generally, we get, part of our problem is we want information from them, and so we're asking questions. And depending on what your level of relationship is with your kid, it could come across as an interrogation.
Yeah.
Especially if you haven't spent that time, in the context of a young man.
Totally.
Doing other stuff with him and
if it's
participating in what they enjoy to do.
In a long while, then it becomes a very special
interrogation.
Very stressful moment rather than one in many moments, right?
Yep. So all of a sudden
you're doing
a
big deal.
Yeah, you're doing it less often, and therefore it's a bigger deal because you're trying to cover too much ground.
That's such a good point.
And the other thing is, I think it's super important in that context, especially if it's been a while since you've had a face-to-face with your kid, is you be the one to share what's going on in your life. You don't have to be asking questions. You can just be saying, hey, this is what I've been working on whatever struggling with in my life, and man, I wish I knew all the answers, but this is what I do know, and you can share what you do know, and some of that gets back to worldview, your faith. How do you look at difficult situations, and invariably you're going to have some things pop up in the mind of that child as well. If he's willing to share kind of what's going on with him and some of the things that he's working through and struggling through, and be honest, maybe I can share what's on my heart.
Give vulnerability to receive vulnerability.
Right. Well, and kids know when you're just going through the motions.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing is like, so when all you do is every so often you said, hey, how are things going at school? Yeah. How are your grades?
Yeah. Why would
they know? They know. So you feel obligated to talk to me now. Right. And so
would you get a note from the school or what?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like right away started a question like, well, what did someone say? who called you? Who talked to you? Right. Whereas if you make that effort, and it has to be like, it's not a switch that you can just kind of flip on and off. Right. It's something you have to be intentional about doing. And I don't know. Then sometimes you get to the point where like, I know I've tried to make more of an effort to, whether it's just play a game of Mario Kart or my daughter likes to play checkers and Connect Four. We have a running competition with that. But it almost seems like sometimes then you have to be like, okay, now we're almost, I shouldn't say talking too much, but then they want to talk to you all the time, which is it's not a problem, but it's a good issue to have. Or then you have to kind of rein that back in a little bit too.
And that's the next logical thing is, well, okay, so you're saying I should spend more shoulder time if I want any hope of having good, healthy face-to-face time. I have to continue to initiate face-to-face even though doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And I need to spend more time with intentional shoulder time. What if I don't care about anything my kids like doing? Right? That's the response I get.
You care about your kid.
Okay, so easier said than done. That's one. Yep. Right? Yeah. Two is, what a great challenge for any parent, right? My kids are all little, right? I've got a 4-year-old that's just about to be a 5-year-old, and then on down. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 1 on the way. So 5. But I think about that already as I watch, our oldest Harry's growing up, and he's starting to take some interest in different things. Some are mine, some aren't. It very early, right? So things are going to change a ton and all that. But I've already started thinking about, if he likes this because his mom likes this and I don't really care about it, how do I want to act? How do I want to take an interest? And the thought has entered my mind of going, one of those moments you're like, oh, you actually got one. Maybe I should start taking an interest in it now and grow my interest at the same rate that is growing for my kid, so that when, you can sense what your kids are interested in. Right, I can already see Harry having a propensity for certain things. Again, some that I'm like, that I already have an interest in. Some that I'm like, I probably don't have much interest in that. But taking a moment and going, well, let's go into it. But it is really hard for parents because that requires not doing what they want to do. Right. And that on the surface sounds really selfish, but we all have ways to recharge. So most parents are not only busy with their family, but with a full-time job and all the stresses that come on with that. And depending on how old your kids are, you're involved in other clubs or activities like Brielle with the gymnastics club, and you with AD and coaching, myself in coaching, right? I mean, involved in church and all that other stuff. You have all these things going on, and now you're telling me I got to spend more time, and I don't even get that time can't come away from these things. So it's got to come away from things that I like and enjoy, right? And I got to put it to something that I don't like and enjoy. That can be, I sense a really, like, not sticking up for parents necessarily, but I do sympathize with that can be a hard thing to do when a parent's like, yeah, but I only have this much time to be able to recharge and feel like I can actually go tackle
everything else,
the rest of life.
Right.
It can be a hard thing, and I've bumped up against it often in youth ministry, ministering to parents and families, and curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I look at, being a father and stuff. There's one of the reasons why I'm getting out of coaching and AD and stuff is because I recognize the need to spend more time with my daughter. The one thing you don't get back is time.
Being willing to make a change.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, in some ways, in this, I don't know, as a parent, you forfeit some of you. Right, you find the way to serve. And I guess the other thing I look at too, and you're talking about, maybe your kid gets different interests. Is there something new that you can try with them? Mm-hmm. Right, and then maybe you both decide, hey, yeah, that's not. We don't really care to do that.
Did you have fun?
Right?
No, neither did I.
But sometimes it can be just testing out something new. Right, something as simple as, I know during quarantine, right, we had all sorts of extra times. Like, well, what are we going to do that's productive? Well, you can go on, it's free app, Duolingo. Mm-hmm. Any language you want to learn, you can learn. Yeah. And it's pretty easy. I mean, real short, you can do it, 10, 15 minutes a day, right? So we decided, hey, let's try learning some Spanish, And then sometimes, the words you learn, then you can start messing with, I mess with my kids saying certain things. Like, Dad, what does that even mean? But it was just something that we did, and it was something we could all kind of talk about, together. So I think there's those kind of components, but it is difficult because life is stressful.
Fast. Yep.
And it is very fast paced.
So I would just say this: I would have never guessed before I got married that I would spend as much time as I have already playing Barbie dolls and other stuff like that. Right. So there is this challenge of dad connecting with daughter and doing something that the daughter really enjoys.
When I say I'm gearing up for new interests, that's one of those I'm gearing up for that real possibility of us having a girl.
Yeah.
I'm gearing up with a.
So the fun part of that,
new interests.
Having looked back at that, and she's 10 now, so there's some we have less of that particular activity now. But I can look back, and it's not like I played every minute of time that she wanted me to do stuff with her related to that. Right. So balance. Not saying that she's super happy with my input there, but definitely did more than I would have ever guessed. Yeah. But the nice thing is that once you kind of get over the uncomfortableness of that, you can actually have a lot of fun and bring your own thing to it as a dad. And so yeah, it's difficult. It's like anything else that we do for our own good. Some people really enjoy working out and running for 5 miles every morning. That's not me. If I need to work out, it's work. It's work.
Yeah, you're gonna.
I have to decide to do it. Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that I have to. It's not something I.
You're scheduling it in.
Yeah, I've got to actually do the work of trying to do it. And there's other things in life, obviously, that come that way. And it's no different than in parenting. And there's going to be certain activities, certain things that you just naturally don't want to do, but it doesn't change the fact that it's important to do, and there is a payoff. There is benefit from planting those seeds and seeing that harvest.
And two important points that you each separately made, but very tied together. Building a shoulder-to-shoulder relationships. A shoulder-to-shoulder relationship requires the parent taking responsibility of initiating. That's one. What happens often is a parent initiates on what they want to do, and that's two. Is how often do parents ask their child, what would you like to do?
Yeah.
And then have the patience to weed through the I don't know, I don't cares that are likely to come.
Right.
to find something. And what I loved about both of what you guys are saying is just taking that initiation and going, let's be productive with this time. But I don't want to do it alone. I want to do it with you. For any kid, a lot of kids are willing to go along with a lot of different things in the end when a parent is truly engaged in their life. A lot of kids are rarely likely to engage when a parent isn't engaged in their life. So yeah, I just
well, and as fathers and husbands, it is our job to lead.
Yep.
We're the ones that should be initiating that.
And then another great reminder, right? Sitting and watching a game is not a waste of time if you're making an intentional time to build relationship. Definitely it can be a lazy time, right? Sitting and doing nothing all the time completely contradicts balance, right? You should have balance. Yep. But something that really, when I went through this and thought about it, my marriage, being a very young dad at the time, still a young dad, but at the time a new dad.
Right.
We had just had Harry when we went through this, and just how important it is to do those moments that seem like a waste of time or seem lazy that aren't at all. As long as I'm being intentional with that time to build relationship. So sometimes it's going and doing something. Sometimes it's, I highly anticipate at least one of my sons wanting to watch or enjoying watching a Twitch streamer or a YouTube streamer, Facebook streamer, playing whatever various game.
Yep.
And to stand up for the Twitch streamers that people rag on at different times, going, why would you watch someone play a video game? Why don't you just go play a video game yourself? My question right back is, why do you watch a football game?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same
you
dynamic.
You can go out and you can play it, but why don't you? You're watching a professional who's getting paid to do it better than you ever could, right? So
and the other thing is some of those guys are super entertaining.
Right? Yeah, right.
It's like having the quarterback's like on the field conversation as he's out there playing an NFL football game.
You get the right guy, the right gal. They're incredibly talented. Yeah. They're getting paid to do what they do because they're a professional at doing it, and they're very good at it and very entertaining, right? Yep. So it's a form of entertainment. Yeah. But am I going to be willing to, within reason and within balance of everything else, like, no, I wouldn't want my kid watching a streamer for 5 hours a day. That's a waste of time. You're taking a lot of time out of the day to do very little. But am I also willing to take an interest and go, what's this streamer that you keep watching? Yeah, can I watch with you? And it's not I just want to spend time with you, right? For a parent to say that, I think there's quite a few kids that are probably inside screaming for that to happen. And it doesn't. And I guess I don't want this conversation to come alongside or to come at parents like they're not doing the right thing. My hope is that this conversation is coming alongside them going, there's things that you can do, not more, because just about every parent I know is trying to do a lot of things. I don't know too many lazy parents, but there's something different that you can do is maybe how I'd phrase it, right?
Just tweak it.
Right. And bring some of that intentionality and purpose into what you're doing. So, okay, I did this, but if I just did it at this time or with this thing and said it a little bit different, it would have far better effectiveness in relation to the shoulder-to-shoulder, face-to-face.
A little bit goes a long way if you do it right.
Yeah. So bringing this, go ahead.
I was just saying that, that's absolutely right.
100%. I remember, on that point really quick before I move on to my next point was, I remember my dad showing up to all of my home games, right? I had 3 brothers. My parents were like, they both had full-time jobs. They're like, away games, probably not going to happen every once in a while, especially the big important games. Home games, we'll try to make all of them. My dad, at the time, worked till 6, and so he'd, on our game days, find a way to get off early, and he'd show up to just about 95, 98% of every single one, right? And he'd be engaged. And one thing I always loved about it is he never talked to us about the game until we got home. He never talked to me about the game on the field. He never said a word about my play. He never said a word about the other team. He was just there. And I think in a very intentional way of saying, I'm not here for your success. I'm here for you. At least that's how I took it, right?
Sure.
I'm here not because you did good or because you did bad or because the other team did good or bad. I'm here for you. Now, he enjoyed football and basketball, so that was obviously a piece that he enjoyed.
That was easy.
But I remember a lot of him coming on the field, talking, not necessarily X's and O's, just like, hey, great, you did good, those kind of things, right? Not specifics of the game. And then getting home and then sitting on the couch after I've showered and kind of relaxed and, relaxed for, just stopped thinking so hard about it. Then we talk about the game in a safe space away from everyone else. Like, I've never really had that conversation with him necessarily specifically of like, did you do that intentionally? But I always got the sense that he did, and something that I'm going to do with my kids too, of that maybe he didn't know exactly what he was doing or why he was doing it. I think he did. My dad's usually a pretty purposeful person. But what it instilled in me is, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. You did well. You did bad. It doesn't matter. I'm here. Where I think a lot of times parents end up sending mixed messages, and I can have the same danger of doing that, of making comments on their performance right there in the moment, which sends the real message, I'm here to critique you rather than I'm here to support you.
Right.
And parents are always like, well, how can I talk about it without talking about it? It's like, just be there, right? You don't need to say a lot. Your presence matters because it's strategic presence. And that's what you guys are saying, that's what a little thing goes a long way, strategic presence.
Well, and I mean, sports opens up a whole other avenue of things, especially with, at the end of the day, we're all going to put the ball down.
Yeah, right.
I mean, even you want to stay active and do this stuff, even like some of the leagues and stuff I play in, it's for fun to see out and exercise. Yeah, we play competitively, but we're not paid.
There's a day coming that it's over.
Well, and we're not paid to do it. At this point, it's about relationships. It's about having fun.
Yeah.
Right. And just continuing to move and stay active. Right. And like you said, show up for your kid. Your kid doesn't need to be the star.
No.
Right. There's less than 1% of all athletes are going to play professional sport and get paid to do it. Right. So, like you said, your motivation, because if it's about your kid, then it doesn't matter what the score says. It doesn't matter if your kid was in for 10 seconds or for the whole game. Right. And I think that's sometimes it's, like they say, people try to live vicariously through somebody else. Too often that happens.
Yeah.
And I said, kids will pick up on that too, right? If they're more worried about what you're thinking in the stands.
Yeah. And it's a critical piece of that shoulder-to-shoulder relationship. Showing up to your kids' interests and be there to support them, not critique them, not get focused on their performance, but that they were there and they put in the work and the time to do it to the best of their ability and to encourage them in that. That goes a huge way. Then, again, you have to bring in this piece. If you don't initiate face-to-face, doesn't matter how great shoulder-to-shoulder is, that just isn't going to happen very often unless you have a very unique youth that wants that and is willing to initiate it, which there are some.
And the other thing is, too, I think you guys are obviously both coaches, longtime coaches. And as a parent of, both my children are in sports. Malia pretty much specializes in gymnastics and does a really good job. Good or bad, Brielle's been, I think, good. Has been pretty involved in the coaching of her. Partly out of necessity, simply because they're just,
short on numbers.
Short on numbers of coaches available. But setting that aside, we try. I know I especially tried not to coach my kid. That's the job of the coach. Now I might, having the background I do, give Reese some tips and some individual things that I think would be helpful to him. But I'm not going to second guess what he's being told on the field to do. And then I'm supporting him, and I'm also supporting the whole effort of the team and the coaching staff and everything else. And to the extent that I can be a positive influence in that, that's good. Do I always agree exactly with what's going on in the field and
of course
coaching decision? You never do. No. But I also don't see every facet of what's going on in the context of the weekly stuff. And we all can complain about things, and that's just sports. I mean, you can take it any kind of part of your children's lives where they're under the care or the instruction or the leadership of somebody else. Yeah. In some ways, you gotta find that balance of being supportive. Obviously, if there's something like abuse or something bad happening, you step in. But in general, your kid should not be worried about what kind of flack he or she's going to get when he gets home.
Yeah.
That should never be a part of the paradigm.
Yeah, and that's a hard piece that's reality. And I think I'm speaking for Jonathan too, but most coaches, I think, would never ask a parent to agree with everything they do, but support everything their kid is trying to accomplish. Right? Yeah. If the best parents for any program are ones that support what their kid is trying to accomplish in the scope of the team as a whole.
Sure.
So that means taking into understanding that my kid is not the team, part of the team, and they're trying to accomplish these 4 or 5 things specifically for my kid to help their team be successful. To support in that, whether you agree with the coach or not, I think any coach would be tickled pink if parents just did that, That is a difficult thing at times.
Well, it sets you up for the rest of life too.
100%.
I mean,
yep.
You're not, like I tell my kids all the time, like if you think that your parent's going to call your college professor to complain about a grade, I was like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
No.
That they're going to laugh at you. 2, they might just say, fine, I'm going to kick him out of my class.
Yeah.
Right. You get to college, you're not going to call the college coach. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it probably does happen. I've read articles on, they're not going to give you the time of day either.
No.
Right. So you're not teaching your kid, you're teaching them the wrong way to handle conflict.
You're not setting them up for success.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, okay. So we started with a little bit of marriage, went into the whole parenting side of things with this subject. Let's pull it back into the marriage side of things. I'm curious, where do you see this play out in your marriages? Not exactly asking you to share all the deep, dark, hard stuff in marriage, right? But do you see this in your marriage? Do you see the face-to-face times and the unique shoulder-to-shoulder times? And how have you practically seen those things play out in your lives?
Well, I think the shoulder-to-shoulder part of it, and this was something I was not very good at the start of my marriage, but like understanding like what your wife's love language is, right? And hers was more of like service. Like she felt loved when, whether it's something like washing the dishes or unloading the dishwasher or whatnot. And so I've gotten better to the point where, I don't mind running a vacuum cleaner. I don't mind unloading the dishwasher, those types of things. And you don't have to say anything with that as much as you need the face-to-face, the shoulder-to-shoulder stuff for a lot of wives, not all obviously, but in general, I think is, do I have to tell you to put your plate in the dishwasher, or do I have to tell you to pick up your clothes? And oftentimes these are things, it's like I told her, like when we were first married, it's like, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I didn't want to do it,
right,
or that I had a problem doing it, but I figured if it was something that needed to be done, if you ask me, I'd love to do it for you.
Yeah.
And understanding the difference between being asked and just going and looking to do it, I think was in communication, being able to talk, and that's sometimes harder for some than others. Mm-hmm. But if you have that comfort level of being able to, hey, we can talk this out. I remember, I was working in the mall, and we had just had Jacqueline, and Case had brought me lunch, and we were just visiting, and this older lady stopped by, and she says, how long have you guys been married? I think we've been married like 2 years. And she said, I'm just going to tell you right now. She's like, you guys are going to make it. I'm like random stranger watching.
Thanks, random person.
Right? Mm-hmm. But she said she was a family therapist. Had been in practice for 30, 40 years or whatever. She said the people that I see that make it today, and she didn't know that we were believers, where like divorce is not an option, right? Not even a word you consider. But she said the people that speak to each other respectfully, she's like, you guys are doing right now, she's like, are the ones that'll make it. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, that kind of reinforced, we kind of did it by accident. We have, I'm pretty fortunate that way. We're pretty easy to, talk to each other. But, that's something that's, I think, is really key.
Yeah.
So.
Surprise, surprise, it's work.
Yeah, right. It takes effort.
Yeah.
What? That was part of my thought process too, as you were talking, Jonathan, is it does require you to take that intentional step forward. It doesn't happen just by chance. It happens because you're putting some effort into thinking about how you can do it and be a part of it. And it's not always easy. And the other thing I had too is, if you're seeking recognition for loving your wife from your wife, then is it really loving your wife?
Right. Yeah.
And I struggle with that sometimes too, of wanting to be like, did you see what I did for you?
It's not transactional.
Yeah,
it's
right. But I should be doing it whether or not she sees it because I love her, not to get her love. I think sometimes it can get twisted around that way where you're doing something, like you said, transactional. You want her love and affection and attention, and that's not a bad thing. No. Any husband should want their wife's attention, right? Like, that's a good thing. You shouldn't be wanting other women's attention. You should be wanting your wife's attention.
But not keeping score.
But, right, if you're doing it as a transaction, I'm going to do this to get this rather than because of this, right? It should be a byproduct, a fruit of something that exists, not to get something that doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but I can tell you that the way that I communicate is not the way that Brielle communicates.
Yeah, totally.
Right? So you have that additional hump there that you gotta work your way through. And so you throw that into the mix of also, you know, spending the right amount of time doing different things. Yeah, it's
really quick. How long have you guys been married?
13 years.
13 years.
14 in December.
20.
And then it'll be 9 in August, so a few months away from a few months shy of 9. So that's a good even spread. Yeah, love it. And I only ask that because the other thought popped in my head is, as time goes on, seasons change in your relationship, marriage, and certain aspects of this, the face-to-face, shoulder-to-shoulder, how it plays out practically. It changes. The difficult parts, the easier parts, that all changes. You know, for us, when we didn't have kids, the shoulder stuff was relatively easy because there wasn't other things really pulling away at the shoulder time. Having kids, I always tell it, I came face to face with the ugly truth that we had put our husband-wife relationship on hold without even knowing it, without trying, had our first kid, and immediately that relationship got put on hold.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do.
And in part, good things. Tesha and I wanted to be awesome mom and dads, and so we were putting a lot of effort into not only parenting a child, but how are we going to parent? And we were talking a ton, we were relating a ton, we were spending a lot of time with each other, but not as husband and wife. And that, you know, a lot of times when I say that, people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's at least for us, very different time spent when we're talking about mom and dad stuff versus husband-wife stuff. And there's a whole different piece of relationship there that we had just kind of, without trying, just put it on hold. And all of a sudden we came face to face with this. We're frustrated, worn out, tired, mad, more arguments, things like that. And figuring out the root of it is, I'm not your husband, you're not my wife functionally. We're mom and dad functionally. And we got to recapture and bring this back in, or it's going to cause huge issues. So curious your guys' thoughts on that too, as you have gone through different seasons of life, is how have you seen the shoulder and face-to-face change in your time together?
The most glaring one for me, you know, we were married and we had our daughter while I was still in college. And so finishing up, and I had that last semester of student teaching, and it was one of those where like we talked beforehand of like, hey, you know, because I still needed to work. So I was student teaching, being at school from, 8 to 4, and then going from there to work, a couple nights a week plus weekends, and just understanding that, this is going to really suck for a while. You're not going to have the time. And like you said, things change, as your kids get older, they're more involved in stuff. One of the things we've tried to do, when Jacqueline comes down for youth group is, hey, we've got Wednesday night where we can, and it doesn't mean we have to go, usually we go out to dinner. But sometimes it's just a matter of doing a little grocery shopping.
I was just about to say,
right?
Can you double up on that activity?
Oh,
an activity you have to do, but can you bring better purpose and intentionality to that activity? Thank you.
Yeah. No, you can't. Yeah, it's... Sometimes I think people try to make it way too complicated. It really is, keep it simple.
Yeah, why can't going to the grocery store be a date night? Why can't that be the case? Yeah. You got to do it anyways.
Right.
You might as well make it awesome and fun.
Yeah.
I say that sometimes and people raise their eyebrows like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's good to go off to a restaurant, have a stereotypical date night, but can't I use these other have to times and repurpose them to something with a better result, a better purpose.
The caveat to that, though, too, I think is, and Ben could speak this maybe more so than I can. You can do that once you've built the foundation.
True.
Right? So if you haven't got the foundation of the shoulder to shoulder, the face to face, right? It's a lot more difficult to do that.
Because it's not naturally there.
Right. No, it's not. Whereas, you know, where my wife and I are now, it's like it's okay to just go. I mean,
same.
It's not a big deal. Someone's like, well, you're gonna go, you got big plans. Like, yeah, we're gonna hang out. We got to do a couple errands, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And still.
Oh, and you make time for like I said, you make time for those special times that have their own unique value. But like something that Tesh and I love doing is going to Walmart up in Williston. On the drive up there, the kids fall asleep in the car, and we have an hour of just conversation on the way up. And typically, we're up there for a few hours. On the way home, what happens? They fall back asleep again. And about 15 minutes in on the way home, they're asleep or they're watching a movie in the car, and we've got another hour, 45 minutes of just solid, distract-free conversation that we cherish. That isn't this glamorous, elaborate date night that ends up being something far better, you know, like something even better than if I could have planned something here in Sydney. It wouldn't have had as great a impact.
So I think one of the things that you hear a lot of people say is, well, you guys have to have a date night and all that stuff. And I think there's some value to that, obviously.
There is.
But if you, like you said, if you don't have a healthy relationship, it's not like a date night's going to magically fix your relationship.
Right. True. Yeah.
Exactly. If anything, it's going to come across as really uncomfortable. Yep.
Well, and I think in part too, you guys are all saying it in different ways. Healthy relationship happens in the little things that happen constantly and consistently. It doesn't happen in the big things that happen rarely and not often. You know, it really does happen in the mundane, consistently, constantly. Little things going on. How are you doing with those things and being consistent in those things that end up making, I think, in large part, the big impacts on any relationship, whether it's a spouse or a kid or anything like that, whether it's whether you're teaching your students or youth or players coaching, being consistent in the little things I found great impact, profound impact, where you try to do the one big moment hoping for a great impact or fruit to come from it, and you're like, well, they didn't have as big of a turnout as I thought it would.
Well, and it's the mantra of you'll get out of what you put into it, right? I mean, you think about, you hear the, CNE Christians, Christmas and Easter, right? There's not much there, right? If the only time that you care about what's going on in your relationship is on Valentine's Day, your anniversary, your birthday, Mother's Day, right? You got 360 odd days that there's nothing there. And over time, I mean, it's just like the person that thinks that they're going to go get a beach body in 1 week at the gym.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. There's no magic formula that just changes all of that. So, like you said, being consistent. So.
Right on. Well, I appreciate your guys' time today. We had some really fun high moments. We also had some harder, tougher moments. I think this is such a great conversation, one that we can have consistently, constantly for years to come, because it changes consistently and constantly, practically. What does it look like as you live this thing out? But capturing the essence of it, face to face will always be healthier with a healthy foundation of shoulder to shoulder. They both require initiation, intentionality, being purposeful. But relationships are hard anyways, right? We're talking about this. This is not the key to a healthy relationship. It is a piece of a healthy relationship. And relationships are hard, and they're sticky, and they're messy, and I used the phrase the other episode, right? Why are parents surprised when they need to parent? It's literally their job, right? That's their title.
That's right.
Right? It's the same kind of thing. Why are husbands surprised when they need to be a husband? That's, you carry that name for a reason, and vice versa, wife to wife and dad and moms, and right, to not shy away from those things, those responsibilities, but to press in. And then we know that we need to go to the Lord for that strength, for that courage, for that wisdom and understanding, to carry these practical things out the right way. Because I can't just go and say, we need to have better face-to-face time. It won't be successful. In fact, it'll very often push that further away.
Yep.
Man, a great time. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining us.
Okay, you got it.
For such a great conversation. And we look forward to having you back on our podcast, Onwards and Upwards.
Anytime, just let me know.
And, definitely. I had some fun time with the Would You Rather. We'll be bringing that back. Like I said, stay tuned.
Got some other things too.
Stay tuned for a brand new segment that will be debuting possibly next episode, the episode after. So looking forward to that.
You might have to put one and just have people comment on which they would rather.
I would love for people to comment on our videos and podcasts.
You want me to leave them with one that they can comment on?
Go ahead.
Okay. We need comments on this. Would you rather sleep in a doghouse or let stray dogs sleep in your bed?
Yes. Share our podcast, and comment below.
There could be fleas involved in both.
Would you rather sleep in a doghouse or have stray dogs sleep in your bed? Yes, please like and share this. Help others to see it. Our hope is to help move you onward in your daily walk, as well as to help you move upward in your relationship with God. That's our heart. That's the reason why we exist and what we want to see accomplished. And so share, help others connect to this, bring hope and light to their life. And again, thank you, Ben, for being the co-host, for all that you do. And we cannot end this without thanking our producer, as always, Spencer. Give us a wave, please. Thank you. Spencer does a lot of behind the scenes. We are working to possibly... I've talked to him about possibly getting his face on the podcast. So we're in the works of possibly doing that. We might try to keep him secret still for a little while. We don't know. We've given the audience your hand. I think they heard your voice maybe in the first episode, and that's about it. So there's some mystery to our producer, but we are hoping to, right, Spencer, get you on a little bit more. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you again for everyone that joined us today. Share, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.